Asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.
You're listening to The Breakdown.
Welcome to The Breakdown, everybody. This is Aaron Barker, broadcasting from an undisclosed location deep behind enemy lines, asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible study and sent to therapy. Thank you all so very much for the opportunity to be in your vehicle, office, residence, warehouse, farmhouse, henhouse, outhouse, or doghouse, wherever it is you may be listening to The Breakdown today. Thank you all so much for doing that. BreakDRadio.com is the website you can go to for all of the updated info on the program. Newly designed website as well, so let me know what your thoughts are on that. Oh, opened up the wrong browser there. Let me know what your thoughts are on that as well, and check out the fantastic programs. And when I say fantastic programs, I've had some really fascinating guests that have been on the show the past couple of weeks. On top of that, I've had some fascinating guests lined up as well. So really looking forward to the next few weeks of the show coming on Friday nights on Odyssey Radio. That's the Breakdown Freaky Friday edition. Same show, just an expansion of the ideas and things we discuss here on the program. All right, let's do this. Let's get into some news, and then we'll get into some other content. Conservation efforts have increased green turtle populations. Green turtle numbers have skyrocketed in the Seychelles from 2,000 eggs a year since the 1960s to over 15,000 eggs today. 50 years of conservation work have assisted in this massive increase in numbers. Green sea turtles were hunted relentlessly on Aldabra Atoll until it was banned in 1968, which launched over 50 years of expansive conservation efforts, including tracking, monitoring egg clutches, and even restricting contact with a largely peaceful and unassuming reptile. According to the Nexus News, Settlement Beach on Picard, where exploitation of nesting females was historically the most intense, has seen the greatest increase in green turtle population. Conservationists are delighted that the efforts can be displayed in such an empirical way, encouraging continued methods of aquatic protection. Turtles are hunted largely for food and their parts sold for economic sustainability. Some cultures would hunt and feast upon turtles to honor the past at funerals. Several years later, the body was then exhumed, and more turtles were eaten to honor the dead. UFOs were seen over the Fukushima during a recent earthquake. 11 years ago, a nuclear accident at the Fukushima Daiichi nuclear power plant in Okuma, Fukushima, experienced a meltdown after a 9.1 earthquake caused a tsunami, whose waves hit 133 feet tall. I remember that day. It was crazy. This was the second most important nuclear disaster in history. This year, there was a smaller scale earthquake that sent panic throughout the country of Japan. One Japanese witness was not paying attention to the potential chaos. She was fixated on 4 lights located in the sky above the Fukushima plant. The formation of lights appeared to be floating, almost watching over the facility. In a caption posted with the video, the poster said, "UFOs for earthquake relief." Some have questioned the lights as possibly being helicopters surveying the areas or lights shining from mountains surrounding the city. Others have made the connection that the Fukushima's history of UFO sightings, which led to opening a UFO research lab seeking to answer the appearances cropping up in the city. Could this be extraterrestrial protection by a more advanced, compassionate civilization, or could it be extraterrestrials, our future ancestors, time traveling to watch significant historical events we may never know? There are rapid cloud expansions, and I'm not talking about the weather. The rapid move to utilizing the cloud has made businesses more susceptible to cyber attacks, according to the 2022 State of Cyber Assets Report. An analysis of 372 million data points at over 1,000 companies revealed that 97% of the security findings or potential security issues were found within the cloud assets, like applications, hosts, and containers. Considering that nearly 90% of all information technology technology assets are now cloud-based and under the shadow of potential foreign cyber attacks looming, this has many concerned about our technological infrastructure. Could this be an intentional move towards the next cyber pandemic as prophesied by Cyber Polygon? In 2020 and 2021, an event called Cyber Polygon gathered cybersecurity experts, global banks, and the Russian government to discuss the potential dangers of a global cyber attack. Essentially, it was the event 201 for cyber warfare. During Cyber Polygon, leading experts simulated a cyber attack which targeted the financial industry with the goal of a major reset of the global economy, resulting in millions of citizens being out of a job. Considering that after COVID hit, businesses began migrating briskly to cloud-based technologies for company continuity, it's no surprise that we are more vulnerable to an attack, and that may be engineered by the global elite. Former President Trump has sued Hillary Clinton. Former President Donald Trump has issued a lawsuit against Hillary Clinton and Christopher Steele, the compiler and author of the Steele dossier. The lawsuit alleges that Clinton and Steele and an ex-British spy worked with 30 others to weave a false narrative, and then candidate Trump was colluding with Russian actors. Here's an interesting story as well, and we'll get into this a little bit more after the break here. A meta-analysis suggests that psychopathy may be an adaptation rather than a mental disorder. So the unsustainable theory of evolution has struck again, claiming that psychopathy is an adaptation of the human species and not a mental disorder. And a study posted on Sage Publications, an abstract states that psychopathy has historically been conceptualized as a mental disorder, but there is growing evidence that it may instead be an alternative adaptive life history strategy designed by natural selection. The abstract further states that psychopathy has been defined as a syndrome characterized by antisocial, impulsive, and callous behavior, and has long been defined as a mental disorder. It was primarily an expression of a trait-based personality deficit such as the lack of remorse, inability to feel empathy, untruthfulness and insincerity, and a general poverty in major affective reactions. Much of this analysis was based upon H.M. Cleckley's observations and later incorporated into the diagnostic criteria for antisocial personality disorder in the second edition of the Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders. However, both conclusions are incorrect. The Bible is clear in multiple places that we are born sinners and will only wallow in that sin. This is an adaptation, they're saying, evolutionists are saying. So throughout the years, throughout the existence of a person, they determined that the best way of procreation, the best way to increase their chances of survivability is to lie, deceive, to disassociate through impulsive and callous behavior, and to try and find ways to mate with the opposite sex so they can continue, rather than the emotional involvement that so many humans or Homo sapiens desire to have with other image bearers. And it's interesting how evolution is bought into this. Now, if this is the evolutionary process, if this is how things work, and if evolution were a legitimate response to this, wouldn't we see more of these type things? Wouldn't we see more situations where there were more anger and callousness? Wouldn't we see it if this was an adaptive way to deepen those relationships, or not to deepen relationships, but to procreate and continue your bloodline? You can do that without having all of the emotional attachment to somebody, right? Without having the pain of having once loved and lost. It's like the old saying goes, it's better to have loved and lost than to not loved at all. How about we just skip all that emotional attachment and just go straight for the purpose of it? Let's have sex and let's just make people and human beings and move on. If that's what evolution has brought us to, why are we evolving to something which could prevent us from procreating? You look at something like the homosexual agenda, the LGBTQ. That is actually an anti-evolutionary standpoint. Wouldn't evolution look at that and say that's more of a mutation? Wouldn't evolution say this is not helpful to our species? Wouldn't evolution say that it's not right to have, and notice I'm using their terms by saying evolution would say, which is reification, giving something or credence, giving human characteristics to a concept or abstract idea, which is a logical fallacy, but I'm talking in terms of the ways that they would understand. Wouldn't it make more sense for this to be the adaptive move for everybody across the world? No emotional attachments, no familial attachments, no maternal instincts, no paternal instincts, no reason to love your offspring except for them to grow and then to make more of what you have. Less emotional attachment, not having to worry about calling the person on the next day, not having to worry about the emotional ties that you have with somebody. Wouldn't this all be better if evolution were true? But I think that evolution is incorrect, because we actually see nations and civilizations and cultures and people and family who, I don't know, actually love and care for one another.
I know not what course others may take, but as for me, give me mojo or give me death. Mojo 50.
Let's face it, trying to build your own website can be a frustrating task, but you can't have a company, church, nonprofit, or business without a web presence. That's where SiteFX comes in. SiteFX provides complete website creation from a simple blog style to template-based sites. SiteFX can even give you absolute customization services, bringing your vision to digital life. Even if you already have a website, there's always room for growth. SiteFX has 15 years of experience staying in tune with the current web trends, add-ons, designs, and coding updates. SiteFX even offers comprehensive social media management to assist with your difficult schedule. Don't spend another valuable minute worrying about your web presence. Let SiteFX help you take your business to the next level. Visit them on the web at sitefx.org. That's SITEFX.org. Or call 859-905-0016. That's 859-905-0016. 859-905-0016. SiteFX, your life with an electronic edge. Jordan Maxwell, two big deaths this past week. Jordan Maxwell passed away. He was a researcher, preeminent researcher, and esoteric occultist researcher, and a lot of information that he had was used in the making of a movie called Zeitgeist. And I would pray that he was able to come to the truth before he passed away. I don't know his personal life. I don't know his other than the beliefs that he put out there on the internet for nearly 40 years. But it was a lot of that was questioning the gospel narrative, questioning whether or not Christ was a legitimate person, whether or not Christ was actually the Messiah, and whether or not Christ was the Son of God rather than just a Son of God, or that his creation was made by the Eastern mystic religions, and discuss that. But it was fascinating research. If anything, it's fascinating to read and to discuss and to look at and ponder. It's a sad state of affairs if you buy into it for real, but I'm sure many are going to be upset and rightly so. I wanted to interview Jordan Maxwell on the show, but he's one of those folks like Tex Mars and Jim Mars that I will never have the opportunity on this side of the aisle to do that on, or this side of the veil. I may have that opportunity for Tex on the other side, but the other two I'm not quite sure. The other one is Foo Fighters drummer. And this one hit me hard last night, man, when I saw this, the night before. Foo Fighters, the drummer Taylor Hawkins, had passed away. I mean, just a gut punch right there. And you realize the Foo Fighters have been jamming for 28 years. Taylor Hawkins has been with them for 25 of that 28 years. And he was, an integral, of course, part of the band. But he passed away. He was age 50. Not a lot of details have been passed out. Not a lot of details have been given. And not a lot of folks, there are quite a few folks who are out there like, oh, well, the family's going to seal the records because that's what you do now. You sue to have the records sealed. Well, what information do we have about him? What happened to him? Was it drugs? What happened? Just because he is part of the music or entertainment industry does not mean he is required or that his family is required to release any information about what's going on with him. It doesn't mean that they have to release any of the personal life, any of the questions, any of the concerns that we have for him. It really doesn't matter to us. It's not our business. Just because he's a social figure doesn't mean that he should be allowed to do that or that we should be required to be given that information. Let's have some privacy for the family. I hope to goodness that it wasn't something as tragic as what some people are going to have conjectured online or talked about online. But unfortunately, I'm sure we'll have a lot of speculation around that. The same thing with Bob Saget. To be honest with you, I've scratched my head about what's going on with Bob Saget. What happened with him? His family had those records sealed as well. It's not our business what happened with Bob Saget if the family doesn't want us to know. Of course, we have questions. He cracked his skull. It wasn't on a carpeted floor. That's what officials say. Some people say that it was in the bathroom. But a detective noted that a medical examiner said the fractures would have stunned Mr. Saget and he would have experienced dizziness. He said if he was around people, they would have noticed him exhibiting confusion, balance, and or slurred speech. And they said that without noting where he fell. The countertops, tables, nightstands, and other hard furniture in the room all had sharply defined edges. Let's see here. Unlikely, and were thought to be unlikely due to the fact that they would have lacerated the skin. The Orange County Sheriff's Office report said most of the chairs and couches were thickly upholstered and were too soft to have caused the type and extent of the injury. They spoke with individuals who interacted with the actor in the days leading up to his death, and they said Saget appeared to be fine and showed no signs of impairment, according to the report. And photos from inside the suite where he was have revealed a very plush place. And as mentioned, the corners and the chairs, etc., would have or the corners of the countertops and of any of the wood on the chairs or the coffee table, anything like that, would have caused lacerations. And there was a carpeted headboard as well, or a fabric cushioned headboard. So a lot of these questions, the only reason we should look for the answers to these questions is to know whether or not there was any foul play. Is there any foul play at all? And does justice need to be served? But if they choose not to reveal any of that information to us, then they don't have to. But that, unfortunately, we've lost Jordan Maxwell, we've lost Taylor Hawkins, and several weeks ago, of course, we've lost Bob Saget. Let the family have some privacy. That's just my opinion. And of course, I might break that at some point if I have heroes or somebody that I really want to that I really would want to know what happened. But I'm trying to be as consistent as I can. If I were to die and my family wants to seal my records and not let anybody know about it, not that anybody would care outside my family, but if they wanted to seal those records, let my family seal those records. If the Sagets and the Hawkins and the Petersons want to do that as well, or Maxwells want to do that as well, let them do that. Back to something we hit right before we went on break. And that is this whole idea that evolution that we've evolved to the point where antisocial or impulsive, callous behavior defined as psychopathy or sociopaths could potentially be an adaptive style or an adaptive move by us as we are evolving. I don't believe there's anything there that proves, first off, that evolution is true. The idea of evolution, macroevolution, that we have come from single-celled organisms, that we evolved from apes or animals or any type of animals, or that dinosaurs as large as Tyrannosaurus Rex or as large as Velociraptor, not that they were huge, but as big as those became a little 1-pound turkey or chicken. Sorry, a little 1-pound chicken. I don't believe that my chickens that I have in my yard are Velociraptors. And if you've noticed, they call birds raptors because they say that birds evolved from dinosaurs. But the evidence that they have can be manufactured. It can be distorted and used in a way to say what they want. in their papers, but in actuality, the facts don't lend themselves to that, and evolution is the same thing. If evolution were true, if survival of the fittest were true, then love would not be the answer. There would be no reason for rightness or fairness or rightness or wrongness. There would be no reason to worry about voting or not voting or killing babies or not killing babies. There would be no reason for any of that because, as evolution teaches, it is survival of the fittest. If you are able to survive, then you survive in any way that you can. Love isn't the answer, no matter what Blessed Union of Souls says. I believe what we're looking at here with people being exhibiting psychopathic or sociopathic behavior, although it could be extremely rare for this to happen, for someone to be a real legitimate sociopath, we're just seeing human nature on display. Isn't it easier to understand human nature as it is a move away from God than it is to create some sci-fi type of method and say that evolution caused all of this? I would like to put forth that what we're seeing is just human nature away from Christ. If we look at the Bible, scriptures in Genesis 6:5, it says, "And God saw that the wickedness of man was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart was only evil continually." Now, a lot of people will say, wait a minute, that was Genesis chapter 6. That was before the flood. God killed all the bad people. Well, if he killed all the bad people, what are we? What are humans now? But lest you think that was the reason, the only reason that he caused the deluge, let me put forth here a scripture from Genesis chapter 9, which happened after the flood. It says, "And the Lord smelled the sweet savor." This is when Noah and his family got off the ark. They sacrificed an animal to God, and the Bible says, "And the Lord smelled a sweet savor, and the Lord said in his heart, I will not again curse the ground any more for man's sake. For the imagination of man's heart is evil from his youth. Neither will I again smite any more everything living as I have done." So we're not going to be wiped out by a flood. This is what he says there. But that was after the fall. After the flood. "Behold, I was shapen in iniquity, and in sin did my mother conceive me." That's Psalm 51:5. Again, sometimes people will say he's talking about his mother, but it wasn't his mother. That was him being conceived in iniquity. It also says in Jeremiah, "The heart is deceitful above all things and desperately wicked. Who can know it?" In Romans chapter 3, "As it is written, there is none righteous, no, not one. There is none that understandeth. There is none that seeketh after God. They are all gone out of the way. They are altogether become unprofitable. There is none that doeth good, no, not one. Their throat is an open sepulchre. With their tongues they have used deceit. The poison of asps is under their lips, whose mouth is full of cursing and bitterness. Their feet are swift to shed blood. Destruction and misery are in their ways, and the way of peace have they not known. There is no fear of God before their eyes." That's the key. That's the key. "Now we know that what things soever the law saith, it saith unto them who are under the law, that every mouth may be stopped, and that all the world may become guilty before God. The carnal mind, our mind in the flesh, is enmity with God, for it is not subject to the law of God, neither indeed can be." The key factor is there is no fear of God before their eyes. They have no wisdom. They're ignorant. The Bible says in Psalm chapter 14:1, "The fool says in his heart, there is no God." It also tells us in Proverbs that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. And here they have no fear of God before their eyes. They're foolish. Their foolish hearts are darkened. Their understanding is darkened because they don't acknowledge the God of the Bible. It's not because it's an adaptive evolutionary phase or they're just becoming something that can make it easier to procreate. No, they are taking a path that is away from Christ. They're walking down the path that all humans would walk, and I'm not any better. The only reason that I am where I am is because God was gracious and kind enough to reach down and save me, to regenerate me for salvation, to regenerate me and bring me to Christ. But folks, if we're trying to answer the problems of society and answer the problems of culture, we're not going to be able to go to scientists and get the answer of what plagues the spirit of man. These aren't mental disorders. These are just regular orders. This is the way that man is, the way that man is made up, because once we step away from Christ, once we step out of the line of being brought under subjection to the kingship and lordship of our sovereign God, well then, anything goes. Keep it locked in right here on The Breakdown.
Asking the questions that get you kicked out of Bible studies and sent to therapy.
You're listening to The Breakdown.
Hi, it's Doc Thompson for Matthew 25 Ministries. Matthew 25 Ministries is one of the few charities I'll actually endorse because I know them. I've worked with them, and I know almost all of the money that you donate goes to help people. Go to m25m.org, m25m.org.
Fast Track Student Loans can get your student loans out of default, stop any wage garnishments, stop collection calls, and stop seizure of your tax refund. Give yourself a break. Stop the stress and get your student loan payments down to as little as $25 a month based on what you can afford to pay. 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395, 800-709-4395.
Why have thousands of aspiring authors teamed up with Christian Faith Publishing to publish their book? Because Christian Faith Publishing is an author-friendly publisher who understands that your labor is more than just a book. We provide authors freedom and flexibility throughout the publishing process, professional book editing, award-winning design, and some of the highest royalty structures in the publishing industry. And as always, you will retain 100% of the rights to your book.
I was looking to find a company that I could trust, one that assisted in the editing process completely.
The most important qualities that I was looking for was a publisher who was honest and upfront, no hidden costs or fees, and owning the rights to my own work.
Christian Faith Publishing will publish, market, and sell your books in all major bookstores, online booksellers, as well as specialty Christian bookstores. Call for your free author submission kit.
800-978-4812, 800-978-4812, 800-978-4812. That's 800-978-4812.
What would it take for you to go to mojo50solar.com? Mojo50solar.com is the place where you can find out just how much it will cost you to have a solar system installed at your house and how much you could save. Mojo50solar.com.
If science is the answer to all of our ills in society, why is science, as they purported to be called, wrong a lot of times? I mean, you're looking at the same science that says that we are created out of nothing. All right? You're like, well, Christians say we're created out of nothing. The belief that science, everything is materialistic, everything has has come from one small particle or mass of energy that exploded. The question that we have to them is continuing to ask them, where did the energy come from? Where did the matter come from? Where did the photons come from? Where did all of these things come from? And to believe that nothing was that nothing existed and nothing was in existence, and then poof, it exploded one day when it was 100,000 million degrees and the size of a marble. Where did you get all of the mass in that marble? Where did it come from? If there was ever a time when there was nothing, today we would still have nothing. Everything has a first cause. Something had to have caused it. Now, God, people ask the question, well, where did God come from? God has always existed. God has always been. He is God. That's why he is the supreme sovereign. That's why we follow him. That's why we trust him. That's why we are required to bow the knee to him, to kiss the Son, lest he be angry and we perish in the way. That's the purpose. That's the reason we bow to Christ, because he is the God, the sovereign of the universe, regardless of whether or not we believe he is the sovereign of the universe. He is the sovereign of the universe. So you can either bow to him now, or you can wait till he comes, and then he'll make you bow, essentially. But scientists does say, an interesting article from creation.com, if God created the universe, then who created God? This is from Jonathan Sarfati. A number of skeptics ask this question, but God, by definition, is the uncreated creator of the universe. So the question, who created God, is illogical, just like the question, to whom is the bachelor married? A more sophisticated questioner might ask, if the universe needs a cause, then why doesn't God need a cause? And if God doesn't need a cause, why should the universe need a cause? In reply, Christians should use the following reasoning. Everything which has a beginning has a cause. That makes sense. The cause, now, of course, he breaks out that the cause has several different meanings in philosophy, but he, in this article, is referring to the efficient cause, the chief agent causing something to be made. The second question that a Christian must ask to do this logically is, the universe has a beginning. We use that as a logical reasoning. The third line of our logical reasoning, therefore, the universe has a cause. It's important to stress the words here that the universe requires a cause because it had a beginning, and God, unlike the universe, had no beginning, so doesn't need a cause. In addition, Einstein's general relativity, which has much experimental support, shows that time is linked to matter and space. So time itself would have begun along with matter and space. Since God, by definition, is the creator of the whole universe, he is the creator of time. Therefore, he is not limited by the time dimension he created, so he has no beginning in time. God is the high and lofty one that inhabiteth eternity. Therefore, he doesn't have a cause. In contrast, there is good evidence that the universe had a beginning. This can be shown from the laws of thermodynamics, the most fundamental laws of the physical sciences. First law, the total amount of mass energy in the universe is constant. Second law, the amount of energy available for work is running out, or entropy is increasing to a maximum. If the total amount of mass energy is limited and the amount of usable energy is decreasing, then the universe cannot have existed forever. Otherwise, it would already have exhausted all usable energy. The heat death of the universe. For example, all radioactive atoms would have decayed. Every part of the universe would be the same temperature, and no further work would be possible. So the obvious corollary is that the universe began a finite time ago with a lot of usable energy and is now running down. Now, what if the questioner accepts that the universe had a beginning, but not that it needs a cause? This is Jonathan Sarfati from creation.com continuing. It is self-evident that things that begin have a cause. No one really denies this in their heart. This is one thing that you can ask people. How can you say that something didn't have a beginning? No one denies that. No one can say that. You would not go one day, you would not leave your home and go to work with an empty and come back, leave your garage empty and then come back and expect that out of nothing, a Chevrolet Corvette was materialized and sitting in your garage. As a matter of fact, if you got home and you opened your door, unless you already owned a Corvette, and there was a Corvette sitting in your garage, you would probably, like me, yelp really loud like a teenage girl, but then wonder, who put this in my garage? Where did this come from? Who put this Corvette in here? Is it stolen? Why did somebody put a stolen vehicle in my car, in my garage? You would start thinking those things because you wouldn't logically conceive that the car was just poof formulated there. I don't know why, but lately I did this on one of my daily breakdowns the other day, which you can get by going to Daily Breakdown or breakdradio.com and also going to TikTok and looking for @BreakDRadios where I post them all. I wonder, folks, why I've been saying poof lately. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But what I do ask is why a person wouldn't logically think that car just materialized in my garage. They would think that it had to have been put there by someone or by something, correct? That, in people's heart, they know logically that's what it is. Jonathan Sarfati continues that all science and history would collapse if this law of cause and effect were denied. So would all law enforcement if the police didn't think they needed to find a cause for a stabbed body or a burgled house. Also, the universe cannot be self-caused. Nothing can create itself because that would mean that it existed before time came into existence, which is a logical absurdity. So all of this points to the fact that evolutionists and those scientists who say that all things come into existence through nothing, wouldn't that give you pause? This past week, there was the confirmation hearings, and during one of the hearings, the candidate was asked the question, can you define a woman? And she says, I can't define what a woman, or what is a woman? Ketanji Brown, actually. She said, I don't know. I'm not a biologist. Hey, wait just a second. You want to be appointed to the highest court to make decisions. You want to find the highest court to make logical conclusions, and you can't even determine what a woman is? So here we are in the same boat, in the same situation. Scientists claim to know. Scientists say that they do know. Scientists say that they understand the origins of the universe, or at least are continuing to research. If they don't say they know that, let me take that back. They may not say they know the origins of the universe, but they will deny that Christians know the origins of the universe. And they'll also say that it's impossible for the origins of the universe to come about with a creationist worldview or understanding that a deity did this. So my question then is, how can we trust them to make these logical decisions? How can we trust them to make these logical answers in these questions? If, ladies and gentlemen, if they can't even determine that logically something would not have come from nothing. This is a very important question. This is a very important question and a very important topic that we must all consider. Because if we don't have the answer to that, if we can continue to allow scientists to make these decisions where the wrong people are doing that.
At Romika Designs, we're more than just a laser engraving and specialty design company. Much more. I'm Ron Phillips, co-owner of Romika Designs, and if you can dream it, we can probably make it. We can custom laser cut and engrave on nearly all material. Great for one-of-a-kind gifts, home decor, business and specialty items, or personalized and logoed designs created just for you or your company. Allow us to become your go-to gift and specialty project partner. Romika Designs can help make your ideas a reality. We're ready to help you design and create that special gift for any occasion, or engrave your personal or business logo on just about any product. View our designs at romikadesigns.com or simply email us with your ideas. We specialize in custom design and we'd be honored to have the opportunity to discuss it with you. Call us at 817-400-4040, email info@romikadesigns.com, or visit us on the web at romikadesigns.com.
Flat Earth, the moon landing, JFK, 5G, Biden won the election. Hey lovelies, does anyone have any new conspiracy theories? Because all the ones I know have come true. Join me, Ria Bow, here on Sunday Long Live Radio, live every Sunday of the year, 5 a.m. Eastern Standard, 10 a.m. UK, and 9 p.m. New South Wales. I'll see you Sunday.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen, back here on The Breakdown, continuing on this beautiful Sunday afternoon. Hopefully everybody is doing well out there. You're staying energized and excited about being alive. Also, check out Sunday Long Live Radio, which I'm on every Sunday at 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. And you just heard the promo there from Rhea. Fantastic conversations over there. We had a really good conversation this morning, actually. You may want to go check out the podcast because I made a few people angry in the chat room. There's the live chat. I made some people mad. That's what I do. But folks, that's why that is what I do. I don't do it on purpose. I know that some things I'm going to say people aren't going to like, but I don't like going out and making people mad just to do that. But that's what's so beautiful about our nation. That's what's so beautiful about our world. We should be allowed to exercise this type of freedom. And that's why Mojo 50's motto is live free. But it's hard to do if you're in constant discomfort since the wonderful government has shut down our churches, schools, businesses, and restaurants. Social interactions have drastically dropped. As you can imagine, this has led to depression, sleep disorders, and anxiety, and the list goes on and on. There's an article that I had here that I was going to cover. I spilled my folder on the floor earlier before the show started, so all my show prep got messed up in the chum bucket there. But domestic violence has increased. We've seen that. It's just tragic. That's why Mojo 50 has teamed up with KBMD to provide their wholly natural pure CBD hemp oil extract to alleviate the things that ail you. Mojo 50 provides KBMD's highest strength CBD extract tincture. It's a clinically tested, physician-endorsed, full-spectrum cannabinoid organic hemp CO2 extract containing all the synergistic cannabinoids, terpenoids, essential oils, and other compounds of the original plant. The best price per milligram for clean full-spectrum CBD in 2 delicious flavors. www.mojo50.com/shop is where you'll be able to find this. That's mojo50.com/shop. Live free with Mojo 50 and KBMD's CBD extracts. That's mojo50.com/shop. Mojo 50, live free. So folks, this, excuse me, a lot of things, a lot of unrest, a lot of issues are happening in the world. If evolution or if science were to give us an explanation of this and point to them as being the truth, them as being the reasoning, them as being the purpose of why we're here, or listening to science tell us why, we've looked at news information here, and I don't want to get into a huge point of this, but you look at something like this. Police, a 14-year-old student is arrested after a kill list is found on their phone. Port St. Lucie, Florida, police arrested a 14-year-old student last week after a kill list was allegedly found on their phone in Port St. Lucie, Florida. Faculty at the Westgate K-8 school notified deputies on March 8 about an anonymous tip they received regarding the list of 8 names on the student's phone that had been labeled as a kill list, according to St. Lucie County Sheriff's Office. The parents of the juveniles were contacted, the sheriff's office said. An investigation led to the arrest of the student with the alleged kill list. Deputies searched the student's home, did not find any weapons, but they found deplorable living conditions, including cocaine and drug paraphernalia, in plain view. As reported by the sheriff's office, the student's mother, 40-year-old Brooke Lynn Hinkle, was subsequently arrested on charges of child neglect, possession of cocaine, and possession of drug paraphernalia. We are committed to providing a safe learning environment for our children and continue to work diligently with St. Lucie Public Schools to do so. Chief Deputy Brian Hester said it is also imperative for parents to provide a safe home environment for their children and to talk to their children about the dangers of written and verbal threats in school settings, as well as the consequences here. 14-year-old girl, or person, I don't know the sex. I don't think I mentioned it. 14-year-old found with a kill list. Why is this a problem? Deplorable living conditions. Why is that a problem? People want to die. They want to kill people. They're probably bad bullies anyway. So they probably deserve to be killed, right? Why would evolution have a problem with this? Why would science have a problem with this? Here's another thing science is doing for us. The complicated research behind pedophilia. Pedophilia, this is from USA Today. I've had this article for some time, and I've not been able to get to it, but I'm going to get to it today, right now. Because articles that sit around on your table or on your desk or in the chum bucket go stale. They rot. So you want to get these stories out. And this is why I like to do stories like this, too. Anyway, complicated research behind pedophilia. Pedophilia is viewed as among the most horrifying social ills. Well, that and abortion, right? There was a time when there was deviant behavior was considered socially and culturally unacceptable. But now that it's been lambasted on media and TV, now that it's been lambasted in books, children's movies, etc., and in jobs, you can't get away from it. You have to protect certain classes of people. You would drive that type of behavior underground, where there was shame associated with it, where there was guilt associated with it. But now, no, just expose it. Just do whatever you want to do. Let's just show everybody. Let's just let everybody do what they want. Scientists who study the sexual disorder say it is also among the most misunderstood. I bet these scientists are, I probably shouldn't say that. When most of the public thinks of pedophilia, they assume it's synonymous with child sex abuse. But did I open the door to an alternate universe? A pervasive social problem, child sex abuse is, that has exploded to crisis levels online. Researchers who study pedophilia say the term describes an attraction, not an action, and using it interchangeably with abuse fuels misperceptions. These folks who have these sexually deviant thoughts, these perverted thoughts towards children, if not restrained by the gospel, they will act. They will act. To call it an action and to say it's not abuse, you may not physically have abused somebody. I'll give you that. You may not have physically abused someone. You may have the thoughts, but you may not have abused someone. I understand that. I'll give you that distinction. The American Psychiatric Association's Diagnostic and Statistical Manual of Mental Disorders, interestingly enough, we just covered that earlier, said pedophilia is defined by recurrent, intense, sexually arousing fantasies, sexual urges, or behaviors involving sexual activity with a prepubescent child or children. Scientists have in recent decades improved their understanding of pedophilia's causes, prenatal and early childhood risk factors, as well as how pedophiles can better control impulses. Here we have a scientific explanation about what drives somebody to be a homosexual. What does that to them? One of the most significant findings is that scientists who study the disorder say pedophilia is determined in the womb, though environmental factors may influence whether someone acts on an urge to abuse. See where this is going. See where this is going. The evidence suggests it's inborn. It's neurological, says James Cantor, a clinical psychologist, sex researcher, and former editor-in-chief of Sexual Abuse, a journal of research and treatment. Pedophilia is the attraction to children regardless of whether the person ever harms. Not all people who sexually abuse children are pedophiles. Some pedophiles never abuse children, experts say, and some people who sexually abuse children do not sexually prefer them, but use them as a surrogate for an adult partner. They may be disinhibited and antisocial with impulse control problems. This sounds a lot like the sociopaths we were talking about previously. There are child molesters and pedophiles. If you think of Venn diagrams, there's a lot of overlap. There are people who are sexually attracted to children, and then there are some people who molest kids who are not pedophiles. They molest kids because of anger. They molest kids because they're scared of adult women. They molest kids to get revenge, and they don't actually have an age preference or prepubescent children. So those people are just as defiled. Those people are wrong. What they're doing here is they're building a case. And they're building up to a paramount here. They're building up to saying that those people who perp on children typically do so not necessarily because they have attraction, but because of anger, because they're scared of adult women, because of revenge, not necessarily a preference. And then the bold headline on the next paragraph on the USA Today article is, "This is not something that people choose." You remember years ago when people were talking about this very thing? Like, hey, we keep saying that it's, not something they can choose, then you could just make anything a preference. You can make anything a decision, anything a choice. Pretty soon they're going to want to be marrying kids. And no, that's not right. That's not true. And here it is. This is not something that you can choose. Michael Cito, forensic researcher at Royal Ottawa Healthcare Group in Canada, said there is more neuroscientific knowledge of pedophilia than ever before. I think as a field, we've accepted the idea that this is not something that people choose. He said pedophilia is something people are born with, or at least have a predisposition to. Evidence shows men are more likely to have pedophilia rather than women. This aligns with research showing men are more likely to have other paraphilias, including exhibitionism, voyeurism, and sadism. Men also like women to commit criminal acts. Men are also more likely than women to commit criminal acts. Pedophiles, research factors. Pedophiles and the choice to abuse. They say people have had appropriate sexual thoughts. You may be attracted to your wife's sister. You may be attracted, or inappropriate sexual thoughts, You may be attracted to a 16-year-old post-pubescent babysitter. It doesn't mean that you act on it. Pedophiles may not have control over the fact that they are attracted to kids, but they are responsible for whether they do or do not act on it. She conceptualizes here that the dynamics of sexual abuse involves a motor and brakes. People who experience inappropriate sexual thoughts who are the motor, but there are brakes. Empathy, for example, that keeps someone from acting on them. For a pedophile, the motor is their sexual attraction to children, but they can still use brakes to stop it from abusing. So now we're looking at the process that they're taking. You're born with pedophilia. You don't have to act on it. It's just an attraction. It's not abuse. And then we need to destigmatize pedophilia. They started referring to people, you've heard this, as minor attracted people. Alan Walker argued that destigmatizing the attraction would allow more people to seek help and ultimately prevent child sexual abuse. But I thought that they didn't act on them. So you're saying that if they have them, they're going to act on them. So talking about them and getting help will assist them in doing that. So what they're doing is they're trying to destigmatize the folks that have these pedophile type tendencies. And then they're saying you need to go get counseling and you need to get assistance. But the question is why? Why would you worry about getting assistance? Why would you worry about any potential harm that would come? If we are living in an evolutionary worldview, if our cosmology is based on nothingness, if we were created from nothing, by nothing, for nothing, we're all just animals, right? We're all just animals that can talk and watch TV. We're just animals that can work a job every day. We're animals that can have a little bit of thought processes every now and then. But what's the purpose? Why stop child sexual molestation? If those children are not strong enough to protect themselves, if the families can't keep them safe, if they live in deplorable conditions, why not just make them into toys to be abused? Why not just make them, just our little sexual deviant toys? Because innately we know that we were not created by nothing. Innately we know that we were not created for nothing, that we have a purpose. There is a reason for right and wrong. There is a reason to protect children. There is a reason to fight for their honor. There is a reason to stand up for justice and truth. There's a reason to stand up for freedom and liberty. There's a reason for all of this, and that reason is based on the fact that God has placed eternity in our hearts. In Romans chapter 2, we're told that when a Gentile does something that is not in the law, it shows that the law was written on their hearts. It's a testimony to the fact that God has placed a conscience inside every person. Why is there a stigma around around pedophilia? Because there should be a stigma around pedophilia. Because there's a difference between something that's good and something that's bad. And the only way we know that there is something that's good and something that's bad is not because of society. Society is just made up of people, of cultures. Is it because of people and family? No, it's not based on them. It's based on something more transcendent than us. It's based on something outside of us. It's based on something focused on more than us, more than our well-being, more than just the longevity or the continuation or the perpetuation of a certain race or bloodline. We are created for a purpose, and that is to glorify Christ as King. The Westminster Shorter Catechism asks the question, what is the chief end of man? And the answer that echoes throughout many churches and homes throughout the world daily when the catechism is read is to glorify God and enjoy Him forever. Our goal in life is to bring honor and glory to Christ, to make a sinful person like myself who is not good in and of myself, whose heart is wicked and deceitful above all ways, who can know it, who was born a stranger and an enmity with God. Yet He saw that and had grace and kindness and mercy and sent Christ His Son to redeem us from death and hell and the grave. And now I'm a trophy of God's grace. I'm not perfect, but I am a trophy of God's grace, and we will glorify God some way, either through those who have been redeemed from sin through Christ and who will exhibit as a trophy of grace for eternity, or those who will be in hell and exhibit a trophy of God's judgment. Which will you choose? That's hour one, folks. Keep it locked in for hour two right here on The Breakdown.